Hey, welcome back to the channel, guys. This is Wizards of Light. I've got Alex back with me. Say hi, Alex.
Hey, guys.
So, Alex and I were working on a project the other day. If you're subscribed to our TikTok channel, then you may have seen it, or on Facebook. But anyhow, we were doing a photo frame, and Alex wanted the photo frame to have what's called a tessellation pattern around the outside of it. And we kind of jumped through a bunch of hoops to get to that point. And so we thought it'd make a good example to show kind of some of the more advanced features of lightburn and how you can actually use it without having to break out Adobe Illustrator or something like that necessarily. Not that there's anything wrong with that, it's just you can get a lot done without it. Okay, let's switch over to lightburn and we'll show you what we're talking about, and then we'll show you how we got here. Alright, so on the screen here, excuse me, on the screen here we've got three pieces. We've got this one here. This has the tessellation pattern. Tessellation pattern is literally just a pattern that you can repeat that fits back into itself over and over again. But this has a tessellation pattern in it, and we have this sized for a 5x7 photo. So we've got the inner size at 4 3/4 of an inch by 6 3/4 of an inch, so that we have an 1/8 of an inch border to hold any photo in. And then this center piece here, this is kind of like a liner that is the spacer for the photo. So you would just slide it in from the side. And then the backer piece is just an outline. The interesting part is how we got this tessellation pattern to show up in the middle of this frame and cut it out like this. So we're going to start with I think going to Google and just looking at some tessellation patterns to pull from. And we'll find a different one to use this time, just to kind of show you the whole process that we went through. Which one do you think?
I would find a good one.
Let's do this first. Let's do black and white, because that makes it easier to trace in lightburn.
Should get one with a lot of balance between black and white. So
right, high contrast.
Triangles would work nice.
Triangles. I was looking at this one over here.
Oh, that would be a cool
Yeah, what do you think about that one?
one. Yeah, let's do that one.
Alright. So we're going to copy this image. We're going to bring it right over here into lightburn and paste it in. So we've got this image. Now, if we were to just stick this in a frame, it may not look that great. But the first thing we need to do is trace this out so that we have it as a vector. So I'm going to fade this image, and I'm going to zoom in and take a look at this. I'm going to take out the smoothness, because these tessellation patterns are usually pretty geometric. So I want these lines to be fairly straight, and that's much better. Yeah, much better. And good enough, right? So we'll optimize it as well, because why not? That just reduces the number of points. Looks good. And we've got delete image after trace, so that'll just get rid of the original image, so we don't have to deal with it anymore. So there we go. We're going to put it on the black layer so it's a fill, and we can see now this is, well, it's exactly the same. Nothing's changed, which is what we want. It's all grouped together, which is perfect, because the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to create an array of this. And for this type of array, I'm not going to do a virtual array because we're going to manipulate the entire group or the entire array as a whole when we're done. And you can't do that if you do a virtual array. If you do a virtual array, you can only adjust the original that the array is based on, and then it automatically adjusts all the other ones, which is a cool feature. It's just not what we want to do this time. So we're gonna do like 4 across and 4 down, and that's a perfect example of a tessellation pattern. You can't tell where it started and where the next one begins. So that's perfect. We're gonna zoom out here. Oh, I went over a whole bunch of stuff. Let me take my blue away. Pull this out of the way. Alright. I'm going to select this whole thing and move it off to the side. Re-show my blue. Recenter these. Just like that. Now I'm just going to move these out of the way. We want this whole thing to be a single group. So we're going to group this together. And now we're going to shrink it down. So if we're going for like a 5x7, depending on the pattern that you have, you may want to shoot for somewhere around that size for your final. I think if we did that, it might be a little too busy. So maybe if we cut this down to, I don't know, 10 inches or so. Let's try that. See what it looks like. Let me draw a 6.5 square just so we can see what it's going to fit in. Five by, what was it, 8.5? No, 6.5. Yeah, 8.5. That's right. Oop. Okay, so that's not too bad. Let's draw another square. This one, we'll do it as the secondary dimensions, which was, what did we say, it was 4.75 by 6.75, just to get us underneath the 5x7 size. Grab that. So, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to grab all 3 of these and just center them on each other. Okay, so if I take that away, you can see we now have the basic beginnings of the frame that we want. I don't know why I set those to a tool layer. We actually want those on a cut layer. Okay, so what we can do now is grab this center one. Oh, I know why I set it to tool layer, because it's not going to matter. Because we're going to use this here in a second. So this line is going to go away, because now I'm going to grab Control and just grab that entire block. And now we're going to hit Control B to bring up the Boolean Assistant so we can find which one's going to do the cookie cutout that we want of just that center piece. So I think it's going to be one of these differences. Oh, it's that one, difference BA. But we'll go over the rest of them real quick, just so we can see what the differences are in them. That's interesting. Look at that. So, because it, wow. Yeah. That's interesting. These Boolean ones can be fun. Anyhow, this is the one we want. So we'll say OK to that. And then we're going to deselect. And now I'm going to select both that wider frame and, again, this block. And we're going to do the same thing. Control B on the keyboard to bring up our Boolean Assistant. And now we're going to find the one that we want. and it's intersection A and B. You can kind of tell that's what we wanted just by looking at the photo. It's pretty obvious. But again, if we did them different, we'd have all kinds of different things. So, but that's what we want right there. And we say okay to that. So now we have the pattern for our frame, but we still don't have the cut lines for the box, but that's okay. We can easily remake those. So 4.75 by 6.75. Then all we have to do is center those on each other and it'll line it up perfectly. Now we'll do one more box, except for this time I'm going to select the graphic and the box, and I'm going to use my same height, same width buttons, and then my center to make it the same. It's just, I don't know why I do it that way.
It's quick.
It's quick, I guess, yeah. I don't have to reselect anything. I think that's why, is it kind of takes one step out of it, but not really, because you're still clicking twice up on the toolbar, but they're right next to each other, so it's real fast. So, okay, so that's our basic frame. That'll give us a beautiful frame that, let's see, let's get the settings right. If we were to do this, let's say in cherry wood, we would do the cut. Oop. Turned it into a fill for a cut. So here's something. All right. If you have something like that happen, what you can do in your, this is in lightburn, in the material library, you can double click it, or you can click on edit cut. And that, what that does is it brings it up, and we know that if we're cutting, it should never be a fill. It should be a line. So we set it to a line, and then we say OK. And now, if I assign to layer, it's always going to be a line, and it's not going to be that fill anymore. As long as, and I don't know why the material library is this way, but you have to come down here and hit save. If you don't, and say lightburn crashes, then you just lost what you did. Yeah. Ask me how I know. Because I've forgotten to save. And then my computer rebooted for an update or something. I lose the setting, you know? And then I got to figure it out again and try to remember. And it's never fun. Okay. All right. What's next? Okay, so we've got our boxes here. Let me take this away real quick. What I want to do is copy this. So I'm going to hit Control D on the keyboard to duplicate. And then I'm going to grab that duplication and just bring it over. I can bring our black layer back now because I no longer need to hide it. Now, what we need to do is, first we need to resize this inner one to be exactly 5 by 7. And excuse me. Wow. Don't know where that came from. All right. If we don't want to have to recenter these on each other, that's what this little, these 9 radial buttons up here are for. It tells it where to grow from or where to shrink to when you're changing the size. So if we tell it to grow from the middle, then when I change this to 5, it'll grow both the top and the bottom evenly, or sides. And I tell this one 7. Now I don't have to recenter that. I know it is centered still. Little trick again. Okay. Next thing that we need to do is come down here. I'm going to grab this line tool. Now, I want you to pay attention to my cursor. There's 3 cursors three cursors that the cursor will change into as we move across a line. So we have the pointer, which you see now. We have this one, which is the symbol for a line. It kind of looks like a horizontal lightning bolt almost. And then the third one is when we get over here to the corner, it turns into like a little target. And what that means is it snapped to that corner point. So I can click there and draw down, holding shift to draw a straight line. And then when I get close down here again, you'll see the cursor change from that pointer to the line, and now it's snapped to the line, and I can click again, and now it's connected there, and then I right click and remove it. So now I'm going to come over here, and to navigate like I just did, it's your wheel button on your mouse. You press it down, it turns it into a little hand, and you can do that. Anyhow, do the same thing on this side. Snap those in. Okay, now what I need to do is I need to convert these two boxes to paths so that they have nodes that can be edited. Okay, so on this one, what I'm going to do is right there where it snaps like that, I'm going to hit I to insert a node. That should put a node on that line. So now I can take this and snap it to that node, and it should connect it. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Like that, hit I. And now if I hit delete over that line, it goes away, but just in between those 2 points. Now when I snap that to there, it becomes part of that shape. And we don't need this line, so we delete that one. And now we just need to connect these points. So by pulling off and then coming back and letting it snap, it's now connected. Over here we can see we just have to connect one more. And now this is one shape. So now we don't need these 2 nodes. We can actually get rid of them. By hitting the D. So I selected them and then hit D on the keyboard to remove them. Keyboard shortcuts in node editing will save you a ton of time. Look up the keyboard shortcuts if you need to know them. The most common ones that I use are I for insert a node, D for delete a node or a line. Those are the 2 big ones. T for trim, which will trim between 2 intersecting points. It'll trim a line. Yeah, that's about all I use on a regular basis. Other than that, I gotta look them up too. Okay, so now we come back to our selection tool. We can see that we have our shape here. We can go to the ruler and check this line is exactly 5 inches. This line is exactly 7 3/4 inches, which is perfect. So that'll take us all the way out to the end of our frame. So we slide that photo all the way in, and it'll just sit there. Nothing really holds it in, but that's okay. And then let's see. So then the last piece is to duplicate that one more time, and we have our cutout for the back. So now we've got, okay, so here, Alex, why don't you hold that for a second? I need to send the files over. I'm just going to switch back to lightburn here for one quick second. So do it as, yeah, that's fine. Let's do it as this, and cut is going to be that one. All right, so we need to send this file. So we'll call it frame 1. Send frame 1. Okay. Then we need to send this file. Now Lightburn has this really cool thing, which I don't know if I told you about, but if there's a number in the name, it'll increment it automatically. So watch this. When I hit send, frame 2 automatically, I just hit OK and it sends it as a new file. And then we need frame 3, so I hit send and boom, frame 3, it's ready to go. Isn't that cool?
Yeah,
I don't know why they did that, but I just think that they were just thinking of stuff, man. Yeah, lightburn developers. I think they have 5 of them now, which is great because the more developers they have, the more feature-rich it becomes. All right, I'm going to turn that camera back on, so be prepared. Time. All right. So, good enough. Okay. Autofocus, and then we double check focus because it doesn't quite allow you to go all the way to the paper on the autofocus for some reason. All right, so we're going to bring up the next file, which is frame 2. And this will cut out fairly quickly. 300 millimeters a second.
That's right. That's just a square though, right? Are we cutting out?
Yeah.
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 Oh, because that's the, yeah, that's right.
If let's see. So what we've got, turn on some light here. We've got our pieces that we had on the board there. Now we cut this twice because. Hang on, let me move this microphone over here somewhat so that maybe y'all can hear us better. All right, that'll probably work better. So what we've done is we've got the backer. We have the front part here. We've got a little bit of an issue right where we were right on that edge there. But I think if I take my knife, good Swedish Scandinavian blade, we can just cut that off. And yes, I'm cutting towards me because I have more control that way. Prove me wrong. It's like, oh, Jesus. Right. See, when I cut this way, I'm always scared I'm going to cut my finger. Because I have. With an axe. That sucked. Okay. It did, actually. It cleaned up. You can't even tell now. Yeah, that's beautiful. Alright, so with one thickness of this put between here, how much space does that give us? Let's see, which camera are we on? Let's switch to this one. And then, let's see if we can. Yeah. So, yeah, it's not very much. We can measure it. I've got calipers right here. We can attempt to measure it because it's less than a millimeter. It's about 3/4 of a millimeter, which this paper is what? 0.28 millimeters. So, which means when we add the glue and compress it, we're only going to have about that space. So I think we do need to double it, right? Because if we double it, it's a bitch to line up, but oh yeah, that's a much better size gap for getting a photo into. Yeah, much better. So I think that's what we'll do. So I think if we just use wood glue on the paper, it'll work really well. Let me grab a brush. Scrap something. Just put a shit ton of glue down on. That's what I have these clips here for. Gluing stuff together. They're just, I wish I had more of them, but they're so cheap from like the dollar store, I think, or Hobby Lobby or something. But it'll hold it down well enough while I get the other one glued up. And then I can add it. Uli, stop whining. So this piece, I only want to do the top and the sides because I don't want to glue the bottom. This glue dries fairly quickly anyways, but yeah, that's it. Other than my poorly aligned paper, I think that'll work pretty well.
Yeah, I think that looks good.
Right? And I mean, we can stain it and stuff, which we'll do after the glue up is done, because it'll obviously look nicer. But I mean, what do y'all think, huh? Let us know in the comments. If you're watching this on Twitch, hit us up in the chat. If you catch this on YouTube, please subscribe, like, and comment. It really does help the channel out much more than you realize, much more than I ever realized before I started trying to share content with people. So please do. If you found this video interesting, if you got use out of it, share it, like it, and comment, and of course, subscribe. Appreciate you, and we will catch y'all on the flip side. Thanks. Bye.